live button in the middle.
This is not a book banning, okay? They could go to the public library. It does not, excuse me, my time is off, so quiet.
But this is a public library.
Quiet. I'm here to address the concern regarding library material, more specifically, a book that was exposed during last month's board meeting, The Rainbow Parade, for having pornographic material, a naked man walking down the street, and indecent material, two men in leather bondage outfits holding hands. This is just one of many books, but for time's sake, we'll leave it here today. How does this garbage get into an elementary school? Who proposes this filth to be available to kids as young as 5, kindergartners? And what kind of deranged authority figure had the audacity to approve this? I want to know the date this book was approved, who, the name of the people who approved it, and I demand it to be removed immediately. I want answers on how the library system is audited. When? How often does this take place? Who does it? Where are the records for these audits? Let's get one thing straight. These people work for us, the people, the taxpayers. Whatever sick personal agenda they may have, it's over and done with. It's disgusting and disturbing. I pay $20,000 in taxes annually here in Penfield, $12,000 of which is in school taxes alone. And this filth is what it's funding? It's not appropriate. Outside of these doors, you would be brought up on abuse charges, yet in the school system, it's tolerated? Penfield was once held in esteem for its academia, and now it's underperforming in academics and achievements across the board because their priorities are all messed up. Really boasting on a 50% proficiency? That's pathetic. Not only do I pay an absurd amount in school tax, I then pay additionally to send my kid to a private school because of this. Because they are no longer doing their jobs, and you are no longer doing your job of teaching the basics and looking out for the best welfare of these students. I do not feel safe sending my kids to a public school in the Penfield system. Instead, they promote their twisted agenda under the guise of DEI, which permeates like an infection. This feckless system has proven to be ineffective and a danger to every child and needs to be revoked immediately. I cannot wait for Doge to come in and expose a deaf school more interested on preying the young and vulnerable children at the taxpayers' expense. With their agenda to mutilate our kids, pervert their minds, destroy their innocence, and hypersexualize them for their own pedophilic agendas, instead of actually educating them on what matters, basic academics, math, English, history, science. And then that same system turning around and trying to make it as if we are the minority. Everyone is walking back from DEI because they see the disastrous effects it has. So maybe you haven't seen what's going on, but it's coming for you. So listen up. We have had enough. It's over. Your agenda has been exposed and will continue to be exposed until you stop. You should be ashamed of yourselves, and you should all resign from any sort of public service. Too long have you all gone under the radar because busy parents assume you have the best interest in mind for their children. Yet here we are, demanding you take your place and do what is right. This material is inappropriate and unacceptable, and it's time to get back to the basics. We're not going away. We will not be silent.
Well, I got to get back on my page here. Sorry. Well done there. So this is one of the ones you recorded. You've also spoke at these meetings, right? Welcome, by the way, Kimberly. Tell everyone a little bit about yourself. Huh?
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Thanks for the invitation. It's good to see you and get to know you a little bit better.
Yeah, sorry about the glasses.
Love them. The blue blockers, right?
Yeah, they're ugly. In any case, so tell everyone a little bit about yourself first, a little history.
Well, Jerry and I kind of connected on X, formerly known as Twitter. And I've been really vocal about, especially recently, but I've had this issue on my radar for a long time. What's going on in our public schools, specifically in Penfield schools where I live in Penfield, New York. A little bit about me. I haven't always been involved in politics.
Most of us haven't.
Right? Like until, really COVID was the time that kind of perked me up and just kind of like activated something in me. Yeah. And when in the aftermath of COVID and everything that was happening there, I pulled my son out of school to homeschool for a couple of years, and he's 18 now. I don't have students in the in the school district anymore, but it's just atrocious to me what's going on in our schools. And even though I don't have children in schools, my friends have children in those schools being exposed to these things. And just like in that video with that mom who is passionately sharing her story and speaking her mind, which is her right, especially as a taxpayer, to speak at a school board meeting. Just for some context, that video was taken after the school board left the school board meeting in February here in Penfield. And we decided to, I live streamed the whole thing. We decided to allow those parents who had showed up to speak. We gave them the floor and gave them time to speak so that we could, and we shared their message, and it went viral and it made the national news. Even Elon Musk posted some of the videos. So the school board got really scared, and I've been drawing more attention to it, because I feel like right now, with the change in the administration at the federal level, and
well, that's helping on the trans and boys in school issue. It gives you more fight for it, although in some of the smaller schools we haven't won that battle yet. Right?
Yeah, well, and New York State governor, I'm not sure if it was the governor or if it was the legislators, but basically in New York State, they said they're not ending any DEI programs, and they're just not going to do what Trump wants, what Trump is going, they're not going to go along with anything Trump is doing. So they're going to lose federal funding for our public schools. And Kathy Hochul's already said that our taxes are going to be raised because of that. And so we already pay, crazy taxes in all of New York State. So
property taxes are crazy.
Oh yeah, they're insane.
Yeah, we're one of the highest. I don't know if we're the highest, but we're right up there.
I know in New York State we have the highest tax burden. I think California actually tops us in just maybe property taxes or certain specific taxes, but overall we have the highest tax burden in New York State.
They want us to own nothing, and they'll be happy, right?
Yeah. That ship is turning around now. Like, things are changing. Now's the time to really speak up, and especially focusing. I'm focusing on the school. Like last year, I ran for a state assembly in New York's 135th district, and our entire county, stayed really blue. There was a lot of. It was a presidential election year, so not a single Republican got elected in Monroe County specifically alone last year. So but I'm focusing now on the local, the very local elections, specifically school board, because that's coming up. May 20th is the school board elections all across Monroe County, not just in Penfield. And that's where we can make change. We can support the candidates that we want, that will bring change, and kind of get rid of these DEI programs, or at least, have the power to bring some balance. I've heard from some of the new school board candidates in Penfield that they're really just common sense people, right? We need more common sense.
We bring that up for you. Maybe you said they were under highlights, the two that you're supporting?
Yes. So there's Dr. Sarah Pace.
Yeah, is it okay to play a little bit of it, or?
Yeah, go for it.
Allowing them to be accountable is the equitable grading. Like I mentioned in my opening statement, I do think it is lowering standards and our expectations of our students, and it's not allowing them to be accountable. And we need to prepare them for the future, because when they get into the workforce, college, this is not going to be the same. And I think we really need to make sure we reassess that and do what's best for these kids.
She looks like a regular mom.
Yeah.
She is. A lot of these ones that are on the school board, they're like college crazies. They come out of these colleges pretty nuts, a lot of them, don't they?
Yeah, we know that college has kind of become an indoctrination machine. Yeah,
Marxist indoctrination and all that. They believe in everything free, supposedly. I don't know who works for it, but someone has to, Do you know these people personally? They've been to your meetings?
Yes, I do.
Oh, okay. so I'm sure they spoke. I'll play this one and we'll get it out of the way.
An awkward question, considering we're sitting in a room with 7 security guards right now, and one of them's carrying a gun. To get into this room, I had to go through a metal detector, which costs.
Talk about that. When did that all start happening? You never used to have that at school boards. Is it? Did they send the FBI on you when Sleepy Joe was in power? Or,
well, during COVID, I wasn't as involved in the school board stuff during COVID, but I did hear that there was, a lot of intensity and pushback when parents were speaking out about the COVID mandates at that time. But this is blowback from that February meeting, the school board meeting, where parents were there to speak up about the pornographic children's book. And there's a special needs student who is being disciplined and distracted by furries in the classroom in the middle school, I believe. And
didn't the class walk out of one of those classes and stuff because of the furries in there? Didn't one of the classes, maybe it was Canandaigua, where they all walked out because of the furries in the classroom, where they got kitty litter and that kind of stuff in there for them to go to the bathroom?
Yeah, I haven't heard that happened here in Penfield. The furry thing is kind of weird because it's a distraction to a special needs student, but that special needs student is not getting any kind of support. Instead, the student is getting disciplined for complaining about it. Students being dressed up as cats is what I've heard. I have no evidence or direct knowledge of that. That's just what I've heard from other parents.
Well, I do talk to a lot of people, so on many platforms.
Yeah,
so they had some video of these. I think it was in Canandaigua. Correct me if I'm wrong in chat. It was they had the class got so frustrated, the whole school walked out because of them catering to these furries. And there was like 3 or 4 in the school, and it's absolutely ridiculous. And you couldn't say anything bad to them because it hurt their feelings or some stupid thing, It's beyond ridiculous. In the old days, my parents would have thrown me outside if you're pretending you're being a pet. It would have corrected you pretty quick, in the old days. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, it's all comes back to the curriculum and the agenda they have in the schools, because they want it to be, they explicitly say, which I can get more into because they did a review of the book in question that caused like all the intensity before, but they're trying to, using those words, create an affirming and inclusive environment. So really just anything goes in these schools, and it's just kind of chaotic, and academics is put at the bottom of the priority list is what it seems like.
It's not correcting the kids. It's not correcting their dysphorias and stuff like that. And psychological. I think they're creating a lot of it. Some of the foods and jabs they're giving us now, I kind of think that. I don't know what your opinion is on that, and some of the vaccines and other stuff they're shooting into. The kids now get a ton of vaccines compared to when I was a kid, I don't know if you agreed with them causing autism and all that kind of stuff.
Well, I'm excited to hear what the studies reveal, that RFK Jr. is going to do those studies, and kind of those are the things that need to be looked at. Why are we mandating as a country? It's mandated for children to get these and the shots, my boys are 9 years apart. So I watched the vaccine schedule like triple within just raising my 2 boys, because it was very different from what my older son got to my younger son. And it's insane the amount of vaccines that they require now. And I would like to see it. The fact that they have not had proper safety studies on a lot of these vaccines that are not just available, but mandated for children to get, services and go to public school. Like, it's a mandate. You can't opt out of it. And so it should be the safest thing in the world if that's how it's going to be. And it's not. We know that there are vaccine injuries. We know that there are shady things going on in Big Pharma. So I'm I'm really looking forward to seeing those results of those studies.
Did you have any family members harmed by the jab?
No, I had a friend whose very close friend, like best friend, died after getting the vaccine.
I had one too.
Leaving 2 young children. And then my dad almost died from COVID after he got the vaccine. So he contracted the Delta variant and spent a month in ICU. We weren't able to even see him. And yeah, I don't know for sure, but the vaccine certainly didn't protect him. And he was at the hospital during a time when there was a lot of, remember when they were calling those breakthrough cases for people who had been vaccinated that were getting severely ill?
Hopefully they didn't give him remdesivir. That actually shuts down your kidneys and you fill up with fluid and you're drowned in your own fluid.
Well, my dad is very stubborn and he refused the ventilator. That, like, right when he went in, his oxygen levels were so low that they were trying to get him on a ventilator. And even though he was so sick, we weren't able to go to the hospital because we were, and even after he was starting to get better, and he wasn't any longer in quarantine, I still wasn't allowed to go because I'm not vaccinated. So it was a lot of
Isn't it ridiculous?
On the phone. It was insane. We had a grant. A family member, elderly family member, passed away in a nursing home, in 2020. And you remember how we couldn't really invite anyone to the funerals. We couldn't see it was my husband's grandfather that we weren't able to even see him. It's just, yeah. I could go on and on about COVID and the vax.
Well, when I had my stroke, my wife couldn't come into the hospital. They wouldn't let her in the hospital when I had my stroke. She was outside the hospital talking to the doctors. So,
yeah.
Getting back to the other subject, Harris is saying that a lot of them are pedophiles in our school system. I don't know if you think that. There's definitely kind of groomers in our system. It seems like, to me, my opinion. So
you mean
they
like
seem to be
books?
putting the whole sex thing on the little kids a lot. Maybe you could speak a little bit about what's in these books.
Yeah, so the more we look into the books, and I think that is how it has gone undetected for so long, that it's really unbelievable to people who are not seeing it for themselves.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable that you would have this kind of material in a school for children as young as 5. But we know it's there. They want it there. So the books, I'll talk specifically about the book, one book that was brought up. It was initially brought up at the school board meeting in Penfield in January by a parent, or by a mom, who was very concerned about the Rainbow Parade book. It went viral on social media. There was hardly anybody at that school board meeting with her. And after that went viral and the word got out that, people started being like, okay, a lot of, people, taxpayers in the community who don't have kids in the schools, who haven't really been paying attention to what's going on in schools, are suddenly seeing this like, wait, what's in our schools? And so
a lot of people don't believe you.
Yeah. And what makes it even harder is that when you show the book, they have to blur it out when they show it on the TV. So when because it's that explicit, it shows nude images, it shows fetish gear. Like in the Rainbow Parade, there are a couple of men, and it looks like an older man and a younger man, which is, there's those subtle, that subtle message in all of these books. And they're wearing bondage gear. And it's just, and it tells the whole context of the story. If you read through the entire book, which I have, it's this little girl who goes to the Pride Parade with her 2 mommies, which is fine. We can be accepting of that. But she goes to a Pride Parade and it's all about celebrating this. It even shows images of like people laying on the ground with kind of shades of red, holding up a sign that says silence equals death. and this is at a pride parade. So you have to, it teaches children, you have to be loud and proud and support this.
Well, they're really pushing the rainbow flag and all that in these schools.
And yeah, it's all the rainbow colors, the vibrant colors, the balloons and exciting stuff. And throughout, like, the story is the little girl is kind of like, well, I like the pride parade, but I don't want to be involved, kind of thing. And she's hesitant and kind of staying behind the guardrails. And she's encouraged to be loud and proud and be herself, even if that means wearing nothing at all, walking down the street naked. And like, that's the message of the book. And the parents at the February school board meeting, just to kind of bring it like all together, that January meeting where the mom brought up this particular book inspired a lot of community members. We had a full house, people, like, it was standing room only. And the school board knew that we were there because of that book, primarily. There was also the parent with the student having issues with the furries, but it was primarily about the book because that's a little more tangible. They're
kind of both connected in a way.
Oh yeah, they're part of the same woke ideology and indoctrination that they're being pushing on our kids. And the school board went through a lengthy process of telling parents in their presentation before public comment was scheduled to start during that February meeting. They went through this lengthy process saying, if you want to object to library material, these are the steps you have to go through, and ultimately the school board will make the decision. So that's when the parents kind of got upset. There were some voices raised, and the school board walked out and left the
meeting. They shut right down. Yeah, they wouldn't even hear you, would they?
Yeah, they wouldn't hear us. And so we held our own meeting, and then the following meeting the next month was canceled because they said they got threats. Nobody that I know was emailing or calling with any kind of threats. Those are things that the people that at least I associate with wouldn't do that. And if they did, I wouldn't.
Well, sometimes they do it themselves, kind of. They have someone do it themselves,
yeah.
so they record it and that kind of stuff. They try to make you all right-wing, extremist, and all that kind of stuff, right?
Right. Oh, yeah.
And dangerous and violent when they're the ones violent. Have you been to any of the protests where the other side has gotten violent against you?
No, I don't generally. Honestly, I like rallies in support of something. I'm not a big protester. The last time I really protested anything was I protested animal cruelty when I was young.
Okay.
So that's just usually not my thing. I think, part of it is because I'm a mother, and I never
probably no one got violent at that back then.
Yeah, nobody got violent with that stuff back then. It wasn't like what it is today. Yeah.
Yeah, people can disagree with you, but they wouldn't get violent at you, I don't think.
Right. Yeah, it's a different world now. Yeah.
Oh yeah, they're almost teaching them to be violent in these schools. I don't know.
They absolutely are. They are absolutely training. They explicitly state, because that's what came out, which we all knew already, those of us who've been paying attention, but they did the review of the book and they released it just, I think, last week. And I shared about it on X that they published it, and they stated that book aligns with their one of their core curriculum missions or something is to create agents of change. And they're actively trying to make children agents of change. They're empowering them to be agents of change. So that is the whole goal. It is Marxist, like you said earlier.
So yeah, I agree. I think they want to groom them. They want to introduce all these different sex things into the childhood. Now they're really pushing the trans thing. Are you having an issue with that in Penfield, or anything you're running out of the pushing the trans stuff on the kids and not to tell the parents, and taking the kids away from the parents if they don't affirm their gender pronouns and all that kind of stuff?
I don't know of any specific stories of that happening here in Penfield, but I know it is something that is just kind of part of the world we live in here. It's part, like, the school board or the schools are empowered to do that because of New York State laws. So we know that, it's possible, and it's happening. A lot of people are pulling their kids out to and taking them to private schools or homeschools or homeschool co-ops. There's been since COVID, there's been a 20% decline in enrollment in public schools in the Rochester region. And that's pretty significant. And so people are starting to see what's going on and they are pulling their kids out, which is a good sign, but it shouldn't be that way. And even if you pull your kids out, you are still paying taxes that support this.
Yeah. And what about going to private schools? Are you finding that's happening much in the private schools as much? Probably less, but still somewhat.
I haven't heard as much. I know at least on, I'm Penfield borders Brighton. There's like Mercy High School. There's a Christian school nearby. Like there's a lot of religious schools or Christian schools that I wouldn't think. I haven't heard that there has been an issue there, but
sadly,
it's
been slipping into the Catholic religion a bit there. Pope Don down with the pedophile type things. That's what Harris was saying in the chat about the pedophiles, this and that. In fact, Harris, I know he's listening. He was on with me about they just stopped Trump and his people. They just arrested a bunch of people in Florida where they were child trafficking, sex trafficking these kids, and thousands and thousands and thousands of them. I don't know, like 70, 80,000 or something like that. So that's just the tip of the iceberg, though. They arrested some of the people, and one of them ran away.
That's the sex trafficking is the largest criminal organization that exists in the world, and like with everything that's happened at our border, and it's our children are in danger because of the policies that are happening, like the grooming, like you said, and. We're at that meeting where the school board left and we let the parents speak. There was a gentleman there who was with some kind of religious organization. I'd have to go back and watch his speech again, where he was part of a charity that helped families and children who had been trafficked. And he stated some statistics about, which I'm not going to remember off the top of my head, but the transgenderism, like if a child is gender confused, they are like something like 4 times more likely to be trafficked because they are vulnerable. And the spaces they get into online, I know, is a big deal too, because a lot of times when I talk about the books that are in schools, people, remind me and bring up the fact that children have access to crazy, like worse things online on their phones, on their iPads. And that's a real issue too. But if there's just
people are in the chat are talking about suicides. It's causing them to get all confused, and it's causing a lot more suicides because they don't think well of their bodies and all this and that they should be a boy or a girl, because what they're pushing on this stuff and all the sexual stuff was way too early. And butt plugs and all that kind of stuff. And
it's disgusting, the things that you see that are in the schools that they're talking about. It has no place. Like the Rainbow Parade is like a kindergartner book. That is, it's like a primer for what the kids see in middle school and high school. Like those things are explicit. There are groups in Fairport that have, there are books like Gender Queer, that are explicit details.
And someone else we're talking about that's in other schools too.
Yeah, I mean, we can pretty much, you'd have to go and find out which specific books are in the schools, but usually the schools are aligned with what I've noticed is a lot of it is aligned with what's available in our public library, and all of those books are available at our public libraries throughout the county and probably the state. But there's like those books are available, and they're available to kids at the public library, but they're also available in schools, and they are like pornographic. There is no other way to put it. And why are they teaching that kind of content in school? Like how did we get here?
The teachers are actually teaching it, aren't they?
I don't know what the actual, see, that's the thing. Like a lot of us parents woke up when when COVID hit, right? And we were starting to see stuff. I've never seen when my boys were in public school, I've never seen anything that said this is a sex ed class. They always call it something else, like health.
Well, I've seen stuff from other people
Or
with
hygiene.
the lesson programs. It says on it not to show your parents and this and that. And then in the lesson programs, like papers they have to make out and do at home and all this, that included all that kind of stuff. You know, the different
Yeah.
types of ways to get off. You know,
Yeah.
masturbate your
Well,
friend.
yeah, some of the books have QR codes for the kids to scan and go directly to
Web
gay
pages.
dating apps.
Oh, jeez, they
So
are
who is
pushing
that
that.
benefiting? Is that benefiting a child or is that benefiting a predator? Like, why would that?
They're trying to convert them all. They're trying to convert
Yeah.
them at a young age and mess
It's
them up in the head.
absolute malice. Yes, it's evil.
Someone in the chat, oh, Chad, I got to laugh at this. How come we're not going to Kathy Hochul? There's no way she's going to try to stop it, is there?
No,
No.
she's so corrupt. She's in over her head right now. You know what I find interesting? If you've watched, her, how the New York State budget was due on April 1st, and it's now the end of the month, and we don't have a budget yet unless it came out today, and I haven't heard yet. That's just approving what we're spending money on. It's a basic primary function of our state legislators and the governor. She is trying to implement a couple of more common sense things, and the lefties are not having it. Like she wants to implement involuntary commitment for severely mentally ill people, and she wants to change the discovery laws for specifically for, I think, domestic violence cases and certain things that make a little more sense that are failures that the Democrats
language
have done.
to make sure that it's not put in some way that isn't too, though. You gotta be careful.
Yes,
but
yeah, right now it's like, it's very weird. They have, it's very anti-police, the way they have it set up. And so she's trying to change some of those things, and the leftists will not have it. Like they are fighting against her on that. And, from what I've heard, that's part of the problem with the budget is because.
Is it our state Senate or is it our assembly? Which is the worst part in our state?
They're both pretty bad.
I know they got like a super majority. They can override even if you had a good governor, in there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was hoping for Zeldin to get in there. It would have been a lot better. I tell you, especially over Cuomo. He was part of the whole putting people in the nursing homes to make them sick. You have a sick patient, you're going to put it in with the older people so they can all die too. I think they're making a lot of money off of it though, too. And so even though he had a ship there for them, and they didn't even use it for people to go in that were sick with the China virus. So, I was reading some of the comments. Sorry. The molesting the kid. Have you heard of any molesting of the kids in school by teachers? So there's some cases of that.
I haven't heard any recently in Penfield.
Okay. Not that it couldn't happen.
I don't know of any. I don't know of any recently in Penfield that I've heard of. It doesn't mean that there hasn't been some cases. I know sometimes those investigations are kept quiet for a little while, but there's definitely a positive. I mean, this kind of, like you said, with the grooming, this kind of material in schools, it's going to attract people who are like that. And I don't think the vetting process for staff and administrators and stuff is up to standard. And, even if somebody has
some of the people in the
perfectly
office,
clean record, they can still be a predator and see that this is a welcoming place for them. Because I mean, what if you're a child predator, what more would you want? You would want an environment where the kids are, where the people in positions of authority are going to protect you, because
groomers should be banned away from the schools.
Yeah.
Period. Not even working in them. They should be banned so many hundreds of feet away from the schools, in the old days. And then they keep that secret if they do get caught with sexual predator. In fact, I think that I heard something about a teacher still teaching, and they had been caught for doing that before in another state. Then they moved to this state or something.
Oh, you see it all across the country. Like when teachers are arrested for assaulting or raping students, and it happens all the time. And what is concerning is that New York State, we have such terrible laws that coddle the criminals. And we also have, did you follow Prop 1 that was on the ballot last year? The Equal Rights
I can't
Amendment?
remember it. I remember there was a Prop 1, but I can't remember what it was. It was to...
It amended our New York State Constitution, so it now includes, and I think it was originally, race, religion,
Oh yeah, I think we were supposed to.
ethnicity.
It was one of those ones we were voting no on. I think, even though it
Yes.
passed.
Yeah, it did pass.
And the way it was worded, you thought it was the opposite of what it was. The way they worded it was really
it was worded. It was very vague, but it now protects sexual orientation and gender identity. So sexual orientation is the one that that's the one that I find most.
Which means gender.
Sexual orientation is, you do know that, like the alphabet community, that there is something called a map. Do you know what a map is?
Yeah, men attracted to little kids, basically.
Yeah. It's minor attracted person.
And
so that, if that is categorized as a sexual orientation, because, I've seen things online from the woke left saying that, we need to feel compassion for these people. They're just different. And
videos of that like that. And they're actually giving speeches at these colleges like that.
Yeah. And so that would be a protected class. So if my concern is, that's one of my big concerns about that change to our Constitution is, like, if something does happen, and
probably is already happening, we just don't know.
Someone could just claim, discrimination against their sexual orientation, and then how
you won't be able to fire them and all that.
Protect kids in that case.
Yeah, right. Harris just recently had that case where they found information on their computer. I forget what it was, over 1,000 terabytes of child porn, where the child porn was where basically they're raping the little kids, and they get off on that kind of stuff. And they had something to do with
the thing. They don't hold them in prison. They
were someone in the school, not a teacher, but on the staff of the school, and this person was on the staff of the school and pushing this stuff, and that's what they had on their computers and on their phones and all that kind of stuff, raping little kids, and they find that
it's so disgusting. It just makes me sick. And we have to keep fighting to make sure that more people know, because most people are like us, right? They don't want that. They are aware of,
a lot of people you can tell them and they don't believe it's possible.
Yeah, that's been the biggest hurdle, is like making sure that people understand this is real. This is this is in the schools. And if you know anything about the horrors of,
it's not just in the school, they're pushing it in the schools.
Yeah, it's part of their curriculum is to make sure that it's this inclusive, creating agents of change, empowering children to be themselves, and pushing them to be like that.
And now our state is trying to take kids away from parents that don't affirm their gender and stuff, I believe. That they're thinking of doing that, or they are doing it, or I forget exactly.
Yeah, where the laws are so
worded,
they're so nonsensical here too, that I haven't heard, I think they're,
well, sometimes they'll give it a really good title. I haven't
heard of a specific story in New York, but I know it's happening in other states, so it can happen here.
Yeah. I had someone that was messaging me where the mom had divorced the dad, moved to California, and was trying to force the daughter to get in the sex hormones, and going to have the sex change and all this and that. And the girl didn't want to do it. And she ended up running away from home and moving somewhere. I won't say where. They might be watching. So it was bad, how bad the mother was pushing it. She got total rights. The dad couldn't see the daughter. And she wanted to play in the women's teams. She thought if she had the sex change, she wouldn't be able to play in the women's team. She was 5'11" too. So, so I could see why she wanted to play women's sports. But anyways, it was heartbreaking, really. eventually she ran away, you know, and just pushing it on her at 13, moving, just turned 14 and stuff like that. It's ridiculous. And they have that kind of power over them, and the doctors are right with them. Oh, you'll be fine, this and that. And she was thinking she could change back, and you can't once you have those surgeries and all that.
Yeah, that's
Hormones.
irreversible damage.
It is, and it shortens your life like that. So how are we doing on the cases you're fighting? Have you had won any of these battles, or getting any of the books out, or and then they hide other ones in there, or?
They like I said, they did the review of the Rainbow Parade and a couple of other books that parents had complained about, and they determined, as we all knew they would, that that book perfectly meets the criteria for their curriculum, and they are keeping the book. So none of us parents were surprised.
So
by
you
that,
got to work on the curriculum then. You got to change the curriculum then.
which is why we need new school board members. So that's why we're focusing on the school board election is May 20th here in Penfield and all of Monroe County. So even if you're not in Penfield, if you're in this county, make sure that you get up to date, stay aware of candidates that are running in your school district where you can vote, and make sure you vote for those, because that is so important. One of the reasons why this kind of stuff and the school boards become so corrupt is the school board elections are at a weird time of year, right? In May. It's not in November or like a normal.
They intentionally do it so the teachers unions can stuff it, the ballots there.
Right. And then, you know, it's hard to get the word out. The teachers unions do get the word out through their staff.
They can automatically email all their members.
Right. And it's at the school anyway. So it's, you know, it's easy for all the teachers to go and vote, and all the staff members, they know about it.
Plus you don't know who's running for what. You really don't know the candidates. Right.
And so we need to get new, there are 3 seats up. We have 2 candidates that I am familiar with, that I recommend and would vote for, Dr. Sarah Pace and James Ashby. They're just common sense. They're just like not radical in any way. And they can be a voice of reason. It won't change everything overnight. This is a long-term game, which is what we need to play. That's the game that we need to focus on.
They're playing the long term.
Yes, they are. That's why we are where we are. It didn't start like this. This didn't happen overnight. It's going to take some time.
You'd think there'd be some principals or higher people up that would have common sense.
It's almost like it's a mind virus, right? It's like that wokeism is like a mind virus. It really like clouds people's judgment. Like they're so caught up in deception and, you know, maybe not realizing that it's evil. Maybe they do. Like, I'm sure there's a mix, but you know, over time they've lied so much, and they lied to themselves, I think, so much that they don't know what's right or wrong anymore.
Well, I find that a lot of them that on these school boards don't have kids of their own. A
lot of times, yeah.
Yeah, they're kind of wish. I'm going to play a little bit more of this, and you can comment.
District a lot of money. We had to get wanded. I had to get emptied. We came last time. They were emptying women's purses and going through their wallets.
Why are they doing all that?
Necessary.
Yeah. Oh, we forgot to. I think we got sidetracked when I was trying to explain that. So after the February meeting, when the school board walked out, and then they said they got some threats afterward, they none of the threats were determined to be, you know, worth investigating or prosecuting, like per the sheriff's office. So no one was arrested. Like, I don't know if they weren't credible threats, but so what they did is behind closed doors, the school board in Penfield, they changed the policies to permit guns on school campus, which is, you know, how schools are usually gun-free zones.
Yeah.
They changed the policy, and they hired they didn't hire a school resource officer through law enforcement. They hired a private security, I think it's Black Hawk Security, to protect the school board, not the students. So now when we just had a school board meeting a couple weeks ago.
There's your tax dollars.
Yeah, you have to go. We went into it. There was about 150 people at this meeting. So people are paying attention. So we showed up and we got there early, and it was still packed. But you have to get your bag checked. You have to get metal detector, and there were armed. I don't know if all of them were armed, but there were guards at every exit of that room that we were
Now,
in.
were they preventing certain people on their list not to allow in to speak? And it's hard to get picked as a speaker because you have some leftists that always get to speak, right?
Yeah, they had pre-selected speakers, and they were all favorable to the school board. And they also changed the speaker rules. So you have to now submit your question. It has to be in alignment with the agenda, and you have to submit it like the week before the meeting. And then what happened, I heard from other parents, because I wasn't paying attention to the agenda that closely, but they changed the agenda after the cutoff for the speakers. So yeah.
So they could have
playing a
only
bunch of
left to
funny
speak
games.
on whatever they wanted. And they ever cut off your mic and that kind of stuff when you're supposed to have more minutes? And I've
They
seen
have
that
in
at
the
some of the
past,
other.
yeah.
Yeah, they did that with the COVID too, with the masking. And Shannon Joy, she had the mask slightly down. They came and arrested her and all this. And it was absolutely ridiculous what they were doing. They didn't want to teach them. They wanted to teach them online. And that's where a lot of this gender stuff started happening, is through the online teachings. They were teaching them that stuff and that kind of stuff. It actually bloomed up in the last 5 years or so, I think, with the gender stuff. And now they're having a lot more young girls trying to become boys. It was the other way around in the past, because they hate white males, that type of thing, Christian.
Well, and if you think of it, as a woman, I remember, being an adolescent girl. That is like, nobody likes puberty. Puberty sucks for everyone. Like, no, like that's.
And they want to get you before that, so they can stick those jabs in.
And it's like subtly like dripped into your conscious. Like, if you're always made aware of this option, and girls at that age are, we're hormonal, and we're, highly impressionable and vulnerable, and you just have a heightened self-consciousness, I think, during that. And I don't know if guys do too, probably, but like that's a really tender time in a child's life. And it's disgusting that
and you don't need them in your locker room showering with you and all that kind of stuff. Boys,
like this is that's the time when they should be safe. They should feel, all that stuff, all that nonsense about the school board saying that they don't feel safe because parents are upset and calling them out on their BS. It's the children who are not feeling safe as they're growing up, because they're allowing those things. They're allowing men into the changing rooms. They're allowing men into their bathrooms. Like, those are, especially for, a young girl going through all those changes that are new and,
I don't think it was at Penfield, but it was somewhere in there. There was a trans boy that ended up beating up this girl for saying he was a boy or something like that. And
that was in Webster, which is a neighboring town.
You know which one I'm talking about? You want to speak a little bit about that case? And then she's the one that got in trouble, got suspended after that, and that, as I remember.
I think did Shannon Joy, like, this was a little while ago, right? Like a year or two ago. I think Shannon Joy, did she talk to the parents on that or something? So I know she was doing some investigation on that. Yeah. All I remember was
it was ridiculous.
It was ridiculous. And my understanding, and I could be wrong, just what I remember hearing about that incident. And I watched the videos too. Some of it,
she got beat up good, actually, and she was telling him that was going to happen.
Yeah.
And the school did nothing.
And it's like it's teaching young men that they can beat up on women. For one thing, that's awful. Even removing all the other chaos and insanity of that situation. But my understanding was the parents went to law enforcement, like the sheriff or something, and to prosecute or press charges, and they couldn't because it happened on school property or something. I'm not as clear about that, but I think that
they tried to find a way to worm out of all that, when they still could have. It seems like anyone. What does it matter if it's on school property or not? I mean, and then the school.
If an assault is an assault, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it's an assault. Police should get involved. I think you would think, especially when it's that bad.
And I don't know if there was different, if there's more to that story or what, but that's what I remember hearing about that. It was egregious, And I felt so awful. I believe I was at that school board, or no, that was a different school board meeting. I went to the school board meeting in Webster when the girl who had went and spoke at the school board meeting, because there were a bunch of us moms who went to support this girl who was speaking to the school board before all that happened. I think
Saying that was an issue, yeah.
Yeah, if I'm remembering that correctly, that the assault happened in retaliation from her speaking at that school board meeting about it. And they, as far as I know, Webster has not changed any of their policies to protect girls.
Yeah, and if I was a girl, I would be afraid to go to that school then, you know, and you can't, they're shutting you up. They're trying to shut you up. That's what they're trying to do. Accept it or else.
I wish I had homeschooled my kids sooner, honestly, because I feel like I was late to the game, you know, learning about it during COVID. But yeah.
And the grades in our schools are going down, and they're trying to pass them. Did you see the? I don't know if you've seen the video that was out. The lady graduated with high honors, and she can't read.
What?
She can't read. She can't write. She used some type of software to have it read to her so she could hear it on her assignments and this and that. And they just pushed her through. And they're passing a lot of these kids, and she has no reading ability other than like being able to text a bit, you know, and the text can read to her, and she can talk and text too, you know, is what she's doing. She's doing it by talking to the things and listening.
I know we have this great technology now, but people still need to know, like,
how can you
children need to be educated
with high honors, no less.
That's insane.
You think there'd be handwritten tests that they don't teach people to write cursive anymore or anything like that. I don't know how people sign their name.
If you homeschool, you can.
Yeah, there you go.
And there are certain homeschool co-ops and alternatives that do teach those things and teach American history and teach phonics and like go back to the basics. There are some, I will say there are some options that have like propped up. I mean, I'm probably more aware because I pulled my son out to homeschool a couple of years ago, but so I was kind of like looking for help and like actively seeking those things out, and I wasn't aware that those resources were available here, and there's quite a few, and it's good.
Oh, so they're giving you some money back from your taxes to do it or not? Did I lose you? I'm on the other page. Are you okay? Oh, you muted yourself. I didn't realize it. I was on the other page.
I didn't want to cough.
Oh, that's okay.
Sorry about that.
I cough all the time. Throat gets dry and
it's just
stuff.
Dry in here. Yeah.
Yeah, I get the same thing a bit. The homeschooling. Someone said they were asking how hard it was to switch over and become homeschooling. Is there money for it a bit? Did they save any money? And how hard was it?
It was so easy. It was way easier than I thought it would be. And I will make this caveat. My son was older. So it's not like I was teaching a kindergartner that I think I would have felt more hesitant about, like wanting to make sure that I had the skills to help him. But there are so many online resources available for homeschool parents.
Yeah.
We used a lot of like Hillsdale College courses. Some of them are free.
Oh yeah, they're very family friendly too.
Yes, and they teach real American history and some of those things. There are programs that they actually use in public
What?
school.
No Hate America?
There are programs for like math and science that they use in public school that are free online, like Khan Academy. And as long as you like look at the courses, like it has games and stuff, like there's a lot of online resources to help parents homeschool, and you get to design your homeschool. It's very easy. There is a form that you have to fill out. You have to submit quarterly reports, you know, so that you're telling the state and the school district that you are educating your child, but you get to pick the curriculum. There's guidelines of what they need to have, you know, from the state, but you submit that and
no,
and
these guidelines very left wing or?
No, the guidelines are like so many hours of history, so many hours of English, so many hours of math. So it's very general in that.
Oh, they
One of
don't
the
have
things I
particular
think,
books they want you to teach and
right,
stuff?
right, exactly. It's open to your interpretation too. So for like art, they needed certain amount of credits for art. You could do like, we did like music, independent music critique, and he would just listen to music like that. For that one, you know, that was a little bit easier because he's taken art classes in the past and things like that. So, or you could, you know, how to sign them up for guitar lessons. That could be their their art or music credit.
No, do
Things that
they?
parents many parents already do, and that could be counted for the homeschool curriculum.
No, do you have to go to the school to do the testing, or how does that work?
No, no,
Even
there's
the finals and that. I mean, you could correct his answers, you know, if you wanted to, but that's not the right thing to do. But I mean, like, say they want to get into college or something.
Yeah, with an older, I mean, my son was in high school age, so a middle, yeah, high school age. So we did, but I think for any grade level, there's standardized tests, like the CAT test that you purchase the test. It's like 10 or 20 bucks online. You purchase the test, and it grades that for you and gives you the results, and it gives you your assessment, your student's assessment too. So.
Oh, so they're taking the test online.
They're taking the test online, which I think they do in schools too.
Nowadays, yeah.
So it's basically the same kind of test, and then when it gives you the report and the results, you get, you know, your assessment of what grade level your student is at. And I was kind of nervous the first year we homeschooled, but my son tested 2 grade levels above what he was. And so I was like, okay, we must be doing something right. Like, this is working. So, I mean, you know.
Well, compared to especially what they're doing now, I see in some of these foreign countries, they're doing calculus in 6th grade or something, you know. That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing too. Like with homeschool, you can tailor the curriculum to what is right for your child. Like, because some kids are very bored in class, some kids need extra help. And so your child can go at their own pace. As long as they're, you know, it's very easy. I found it very easy.
I heard of some moms that one mom would teach one day, and the next mom would teach a group of kids the next day, and that they all lived in the same neighborhood type thing. And I don't know if that type of thing would work for you. I don't know if it hurt you working besides a regular job or anything like that, because it's hard for moms to stay at home somewhat these days, and that. No, they didn't.
Yeah, there's a lot of co-ops like that where, and there's even some drop-off ones where they're with homeschooling kids, but there's a parent who is volunteering their time to teach a certain subject or whatever. There's all different kinds of structures and setups and alternatives like that if you search it in our area. Yeah.
Well, someone brought up sports. Can they play sports?
Not within the school. It would have to be a private. There's a lot that we can improve on in New York State. Those are because of the laws in New York State. So it would be a really good thing to be able to, you know, for like my son wanted to learn a trade and he wasn't allowed to access the BOCES that
I took carpentry 3 years there.
Yeah,
when it wasn't, and they don't even have that course anymore. And they say, well, all these illegals are doing it. Well, they didn't have trade schools. They stopped the trade schools a lot, you know. I don't think they still have carpentry 3 years, especially. The 3rd year, we made like china cabinets and tables and fancier stuff. You know, the first couple years is like framing, siding, roofing, you know, those types of things in the first couple years. That's what I did when I got out. So, in any case, so. Yeah. Okay. Hey, it would be wonderful if you could get your friends to come on that are running for office if they wanted to promote their campaigns on here, if they wanted to. And that, is there anything that I forgot to bring up? You know, I don't know if I was well prepared.
No, I would just remind everyone, Penfield, but all across Monroe County, school board elections are May 20th. It's really important to show up there. there's, you know, generally record like low turnout for those elections because it's just a weird time of year.
And you've got two candidates you're promoting.
Two candidates. So Dr.
Sarah Pace
and James Ashby.
Now, do you know of any of the other schools like out here in Brockport that we should be promoting anyone?
I'm not sure who's running in.
That's the hard part, you know. You don't know.
The only other district I know is Greece. Greece is a big one. Megan Farah and Mark Wanagorio. I'm probably mispronouncing his name, but it's an Italian last name. Those two, Mark and Megan in Greece, are common sense, and they're both already serving on the school board there. So definitely get out there to vote for them if you're in Greece.
I think for school boards, you should have a parent. You know, they tend to be better than these leftists coming out of these colleges. I tell you, some of them are so nuts. I just did a show yesterday about these leftists talking about male supremacy, blah blah blah, and this and that. It was all basically white males are capitalist, and that's evil. Basically, that's what it was. You know, that's all the whole thing was. All about how evil that they are and how they should trans them all, basically.
Well, and think about what that does to a young man.
Yeah.
You know, we shouldn't be judging anyone on their mutable characters, whether that's your sex or your race, your skin color, nothing. But they are actively making these young men. That was part of my concern, obviously.
It's driving a lot of these suicides.
You know, it's like, and that's already the demographic that is at risk too, for greater rates of suicide. And so it's like we're destroying a generation with this stuff, and it needs to stop, and we can't stop fighting.
Well, they think it's going to be all wonderful once they start transing and they're in the wrong body and all this and that. Actually, that makes the situation worse. They never can achieve what they want to. And I don't know if you got any teachers walking around with false boobs on and pretend to be guys walking around in the classrooms. They had some in some of the other
one
courses.
Run for school board last time and lost.
Oh, that was that
thankfully.
way? Oh, thank God. I know we got one in Congress that's a trans, and sometimes it's really ridiculously obvious. And even if you can have all the plastic surgery and do it, you're still either a dude, you got the right, wrong or right.
Well, we should be teaching kids the truth, to tell the truth, and if they're living a lie. And so you automatically, even if you want to, like, you have to deny everything, every human instinct within you to believe what they're saying, because they are living a lie and you know it. Like, you have to lie to yourself to go along with something like that. And that's a terrible way to teach kids to live and we shouldn't be teaching kids that that's acceptable. I mean, they need to honor reality, and there are some things you cannot change and some things you cannot control, right? Just like we were talking about, like with like health conditions and things like that. Sometimes there are things that are beyond our control, and we have to accept that and do our best. But you know, we need to pay attention to what we're teaching these kids. It's just awful the state that it's in right now.
Now, how are they accepting the furries? You know, can't the parents get that stopped in the schools?
So far, to my knowledge, there has been no change in those kinds of things. I know I know that there was a lot of pushback, specifically on the parents who were complaining about that issue in particular. So
now, are they putting kitty litter in the classrooms and all to that extent?
You know, everyone asks that. I don't know. I have not seen confirmation of that. So and you know, that's the thing. Like, it raises those crazy questions, and you know, because that would be utterly ridiculous to have in a school. But I have no idea if that's allowed. I wouldn't put it past them, but I don't know.
How does it teach them to cope in the real world when they get out of school?
Right. Like like if you listen to some of the video, I've shared some video clips of the school board candidates, and it's just so down to earth. It's refreshing.
Well, I can play them if you want. You want me to play a little bit of them?
Sure.
The candidates or some of the other videos that you have here?
The candidates, because the candidates do a really good job talking about it.
Or I'll play this one and you tell me if it's a good one. I gotta change my screen here. Add to stage. This one, do you know this one?
No, that's from last year. I mean, that was about parental rights, basically.
Okay, yeah, I'll play a little bit of it, and then you can talk during it if you want.
For the state to have more power over your kids, that's not okay.
Is
And
this
I
you?
can't stand by
Yeah.
and let
Okay,
that
I thought so.
happen without taking a stand. Many of the bills and the social justice reforms that are happening in New York State, they lean in one direction. They go for women and children. And that's something that every American
Exactly.
should stand up against and stand to fight for, so that women don't have our rights removed, so that girls can play in sports, because this only moves in one direction. There are no girls taking scholarships away in the boys' sports division. No women trying to get into a men's prison. And when it comes to the decisions, medical care for children, parents should be involved. And this used to be common sense. There are many studies that show that family involvement, family engagement in the education of children and in the overall care of children is a good thing.
And the thing is, you go to these teachers' meetings in this, and they're not telling you the truth at them a lot of times, are they?
No. They think what, and when you have conversations with people like the activists or the people who are on the school board, they feel that they know better for
To raise your kid.
than you do. Yeah, they think they know better than the parents. And I see this, in threads and comments and stuff online too, from people who they think the state should have all the power over kids. That
It's happened in
parents have
California.
No business, making. Yeah, I mean, and it's a scary time, but I feel like because the awareness is being raised, because there is a new administration and things are changing at a federal level, addressing these things directly, that it's a matter of time. We can't give up right now. We have to keep making sure that people are aware that this is still going on, and get those new candidates and those new school board members in to make sure that they can balance things out and start making changes.
Are you starting to see on the state level, assembly, and some wins happening? Maybe haven't won all of it yet, but heading in the right direction? Or have you been able to, like it happened up in the where was it, Maine? One of the Democrats switched sides, and he didn't switch parties, but he switched sides and voted against the trans agenda.
Yeah, he was awesome.
You did see the one I'm talking about, the black guy. Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot his name, but he was sharing a lot of his stuff, because the thing is, it's like, it shouldn't be a partisan issue. It should just be, this is common sense.
This is like an 80-20 issue, actually, when it's really pulled, because some people are afraid of being called transphobic. It's really kind of a 80-something 15 issue, There's about 5% that are afraid of being called transphobic, They use it to shut you up, though.
Yeah, well, I think I think the good news is, people like you, have been sharing and talking about this, and those words mean nothing. Like, we don't care. You can call me whatever you want. Like it doesn't
calling
matter.
you a racist after a while, whatever.
Right? Yeah. So it's like,
that's one of the first things that comes out right away. They're trying to call it racism now,
Yeah. Oh yeah. That was a big thing.
It's not a race.
With Penfield. Yeah, it had nothing to do with race.
Yeah.
But they always twist it. Even at the rally that I was at today in Rochester for because Tom Homan's coming, it had nothing to, the whole issue had nothing to do with race, but they were like, the counter protesters to the rally were chanting things like the KKK and like racist, like basically calling us all racist. And
KKK. That was a Democratic
we're a
Party
diverse group, and we're here to support law enforcement, but you're twisting that into something. Yeah, they just take the gobbledygook, all those nasty things that you can call people, and they just put them all together and throw them at everything, no matter what the issue is.
A lot of them are paid, it's turning out. That we're catching, a lot of them are getting paid, and that. It's ridiculous. So I know it's I don't know. I never thought in my lifetime, when I was a kid, that it would come this way. I was born in the 50s, so and it was nothing like that when you were a kid, I'm sure. Your mom, is your mom still alive?
Yeah.
What did she think about all this and stuff like that?
My mom's a former school teacher.
Oh, really?
So she used to be a school teacher, yeah. But
is she on the left?
I think she doesn't like to talk. My mom doesn't really like to talk about. I talked to my dad about stuff like this, and he's like, it was never, because I've asked him, I'm like, was it ever like this? Like, was it, especially like, was it ever this politically divided? And did you ever see this kind of stuff? Like, maybe I'm forgetting.
Did they ever push the trans issue back then in schools? And guys wearing dresses?
It's all new. Yeah. It's just, yeah.
Some guy wearing a woman's bikini and trying to go to school that way. And that's obscene, that they're trying to wear and all that, and cutting off women's breasts so they can become men and all that. And then, to make the false penis, they have to cut part of their arm out or part of their leg out and all that. And then they have complications the rest of their life and they die young. And I think
they're
they want to
mutilating children, and they should be charged with crimes against humanity. That's just, yeah.
And they messed up their heads for life and this and that. So,
well, do you follow some of the detransitioners? Because that's what. Gives
no, I've had them on my channels.
Oh, that's awesome, because
I've had them as guests.
Detransitioners, I think they're key. Them sharing those like personal stories, the suffering that they've gone through, everything that they went through, like into that whole thing, and then coming out the other side. Like that brings hope. That brings like just a sense of like, I'm so, and like I like all the mommy vibes in me. I'm like, I feel so proud when I see these younger people who have detransitioned and gone through that, and like speaking up and really feeling like it seems like they've stepped up in their calling or something, because they're sharing their story. And it's so important, because people do not want to know the truth. And the left is really good about hiding those gory details, like you said, about, the mutilation that those children go through on that journey. It's just horrifying. And I don't want it to end up.
They're very strongly against it, and they know their facts on what these kids are going to go through.
Right. I mean, that's like, can you imagine already being like unsure of yourself and confused, and then having to deal with the medical complications and like the pain that they go through with all those procedures? I can't even imagine.
Well, Exit Lancet didn't have the surgeries, but she was on the male hormones, testosterone, for a long time. And it's caused her brain to shrink. And women, it causes their brain to shrink. And she's got a lot bone
you get like osteoporosis.
Right. And it caused problems with a friend and that kind of stuff, which they're trying to get rid of often. I've had her on many times, actually, talking about this issue and that. So she's got her own shows she does as well. And I've actually had a group of them on. There was a guy that was pushed into, he had the surgeries to try to become a woman. And he says, it does not make you a woman, So it turns out he was gay anyway. So, it's just ridiculous. And the harm it's done to him now, all this procedures, he's had to go back in like 17 times or something like that. And everything, and they can't detrans back. It can't happen. They can't put it back. So and they're doing that to these kids. It's ridiculous. So
yeah, it's vital that we change this and stop it. And the way to do it is like making sure that we're staying aware, and when you vote, like voting for the people who have, because this has been able to continue because the laws are there to protect that agenda, and we need to change those. We need laws that protect kids from
they're going to die young. They're going to commit suicide much more often, and this and that. They have to get through the puberty, can't say the word right, to get to the other side, and they're trying to get them before that. And that's why they're doing the whole grooming young and stuff like that. I think they're trying to depopulate us as well. The whole Did you see that
I
about?
mean, you know, what else are we supposed to believe? If they think the world is better when people are not able to reproduce, yeah.
Well, then they control everything. Did you see Bill Gates with the spraying in England? They're starting to spray the skies with aluminum and all that kind of stuff to block the sun. How are they going to grow plants? Did you see that or no?
No.
In England, you got that's a real left-wing elected government there now, and they're going to spend government money.
Canada too now.
Yeah,
Well,
they're going to
is
spray the
remaining.
skies.
Yeah.
They're going to, chemtrails. They're going to do chemtrails a lot more. They're doing enough here. There's
I'm
more than
glad
the
that
aluminum,
Lee
but the
Zeldin
aluminum
is
hurts your
on
immune
top
system.
of that.
Huh?
Lee Zeldin is looking into that here.
Yeah, I did hear
He's
that a while
talking-
back, like a month
Yeah,
ago.
he's talking about chemtrails and addressing it, and I hope that does go somewhere because I was surprised because I've paid attention to that stuff for a long time, and no one, no elected official has ever acknowledged that's even happening. And so for him to say that he's investigating it and seriously looking into it, that's a good sign. I mean, that's better than what we've had. So I'm hoping there will be some big changes there too.
That's a problem with our immune systems is the aluminum they're dropping on us constantly. Hey,
We're exposed to so many toxins. Maybe that's why, as a society, we became susceptible to such insane lunacy with this, the stuff that's in schools and the indoctrination and the trans stuff with the kids.
Well, the autism, all that kind of stuff. What was it? Used to be one in 136,000 were autism. Now it's 1 in 30 or something like that have autism or something. It's something ridiculous. Someone probably correct me in chat. I'll take a peek in there. Since they seen it there. I don't know. In any case, all right. Well, hopefully I can have you back on with your friends that want to run. Maybe you can talk to them and see about them coming on like a panel, and we can do a panel and promote their campaigns. We'll share their links where they can donate and all that kind of stuff. Are you running again, or are you not running again right now?
I'm not decided.
Oh, okay. So you might run for school board yet? Still a little
No,
late for
not
this one.
school board. I'm not running for school board. No.
You'll run for assembly. It was 135th district, if I remember correctly.
That's what I ran for last year. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what my future holds, but yeah, I'm not making any commitments right now.
Oh, okay. I think you'd be good at it.
Well,
Totally. At least your heart's in the right place. These other ones have an agenda. They totally.
My
do.
agenda is to protect the kids.
Yes.
That's it. That's it. It's that simple. Even though my kids are grown, I'm going to have grandkids someday, I hope. And I have family members with younger kids and friends with younger kids. And yeah,
if you can get in there, try to look into how they're stealing all this money. They're actually paying it out for things with good names, and then they get their kickbacks. They're getting rich while in there. A lot of them, ridiculous. Even in the state level, right? In the state assembly and state.
Well, and remember, the largest union in New York State that makes political contributions.
Teachers.
Do you know what it is?
Teachers. Totally is.
So the education issue is.
What did you think of them getting rid of the school education thing here?
The Department of Education?
Yeah, Department of Education. That was the word I was looking for.
Excellent.
Put it back to the states, and then we can go fight them in each state, I guess. I don't know. Do you still have hope?
You can at least fight at the state level instead of fighting the behemoth of the federal.
They got too much power.
Yeah.
Too much money.
Less power is better.
And there's billions of dollars
the
wasted.
hands of the parents and community.
Yeah. Well, that doesn't force in the red states all that stuff down. Trump won every state that there was voter ID and lost everyone there wasn't.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. That's why they're fighting tooth and
And
nail.
all of our Democrat elected officials in New York State have voted against the SAVE Act, which and continue to fight against the SAVE Act, which would bring more election integrity and voter ID.
Oh,
so go figure.
I made a comment on one of your posts about out here in Brockport. They were bringing out buses and buses of illegals to shop at the Walmart there, and right after the election, a little bit after that, after Trump was elected to come in, it all stopped. All the money for that stopped. Are you seeing that cut way back down? I mean, there was one bus dropping people off, and they'd pick up a bunch of people and take it out, and they'd be coming back with another load, and you have like 5, 6 buses at Walmart at the same time. All day Saturday, all day Sunday. Are you seeing that now, or have they all moved downstate, or they gotten out?
I haven't seen that personally myself here, but I grew up in Arizona, in Phoenix. And,
So you seen it there?
Oh, that was like every single day, decades ago. I mean, part of the reason why the schools were so bad there is the schools were so overrun in Arizona. They were so overrun. English as a second language was, they had more English as a second language teachers in one of my son's elementary schools there than
So
they
they all
had regular
had
teachers.
heavy accents then.
And it was the schools, they couldn't build them fast enough because there were so many kids. But yeah, like there were a lot of workers at every Home Depot, every site, every corner.
Oh, they were
That
getting the
was just
free
a daily
EBT
thing.
cards and all this free money all the time. They weren't even working for it. They were getting in the state and getting free hotels and free health
Yeah,
care.
I mean, they just took an issue that's always kind of been an issue, and just like made it into absolute chaos, worse than it's ever been. Because I remember, like, decades ago when it was always an issue in Phoenix, Arizona, but then there were I think when W. Bush was in office, there was a time where they were trying to cut down on illegal immigrant workers. And so they had that, like, I forget what it's called now, where they check to make sure
if they're
that
going to
you're a
come work
citizen
here, they
before
got to
you
apply
hire them.
and go through the normal steps.
Yeah. But there was a lot of ID theft during that time because they would just steal IDs and
then
social
use
security numbers.
Oh,
Like
instead of making fake ones.
son's social security number was stolen, and he was a victim of identity theft when he was 8.
Did you see that there's some people collecting Social Security that aren't even born yet?
Yeah.
Well,
I
that's the
mean,
ones over 100 years old.
Yeah. But the Democrats don't want you to touch that. They want to make sure that
That's
every
all their money for
fraudulent
Act
payment
Blue.
goes out.
That's all their money for Act Blue. That's how they get elected. That's how they can keep a person like yourself. I'm sure your opponent had like 10 times as much money as you did to run.
A lot more money, yeah.
Tons of money, and being an incumbent helps too, because they can get the free mailing and all that kind of stuff, and they got connections and all this and that. I'd like to see more like yourself run and win. Don't give up hope. I know it's a bad situation, and they're trying to also get the illegals in here for voting reasons. They want them to vote, and that's what they did actually, probably to quite an extent. Plus, they're changing their districts, even if they just have people in there that aren't registered. They just have people there, even if they aren't Americans. That counts in the census toward their district, so they have more blue districts that way. So that gives them at least a 25 seat advantage to start right off the top. So you're starting down before you even go anywhere with the money and that. Well, I'm sorry for holding you so long. I gabbed a little long, and hopefully you can get your 2 friends to come on at the same time, and we'll try to promote, or one at a time. I don't care. And I got a few dates come up that are already set, but just let me know what works for them, maybe, and you can message me if you would, and you can come on with them and help promote their campaigns. And any events coming up that anyone should go to see or do, or do you have any campaign events or things? You going to school board things that are going on, or?
Next school board meeting is next.
You're cutting out. Could you say it again? You cut out a little bit.
The school board meeting is next week, if anyone wants to go. And there's the Meet the Candidates night was televised on Penfield TV.
Okay, I could restream that actually if I get a link, so that would help promote it more. So, so, all right, hold on. I'll end the stream and I'm going to see how many we're watching while we were live. Okay. All right, hold on. All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye. See you soon.